Yeah, what a summer for those two clubs. So much to discuss. Two new managers going head-to-head on Sunday. Let's start with Liverpool then. Andoni Iraola, we know who's gone. Would you have expected more in for him as we sit here now?
Yes, as we sit here, but I really do expect a flurry of activity between now and the transfer window.
Is that a must? Crucial?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. I think Liverpool fans are concerned about certain positions, certainly in attacking positions. With Mo Salah going, where are the goals going to come from? Ekitike's injured, long-term injury. Hopefully he'll come back this side of Christmas, though. But apart from that, you know, you're relying on players like Gakpo, who many people think could be leaving anyway. Rio Ngamoa's a young kid. No one really to play on the right-hand side. And then you've got Isak up front that absolutely needs a big season. So it's worrying at the moment, but I do think there's a few players that are earmarked to come in. Minte has been spoken about from Brighton. Of course, Barcola from Paris. So those two alone should add a little bit more pace, a little bit more
if
skill,
they get them.
If they get them, and it's going to cost a pretty penny. I mean, you're talking 200 million for both of them, I would have thought. So that's an awful lot of money considering they spent fortunes last summer as well. So it'll be an interesting last couple of weeks of the transfer window for Liverpool, but they really, really do need reinforcements.
And what about the manager? Do you think if he gets back, do you like the immediate future under Iraola?
Yeah, I like him. I think everybody likes the way Bournemouth played and respects them for that, but this is Liverpool. And it's a different animal. And I hope he can, translate and transmit that style of football that he had at Bournemouth and his quality. I mean, he's a manager that's done really well wherever he's been so far. But there's lots of managers that do well at lesser clubs. This is the ultimate test. Liverpool had a really poor season last season, and it's his job now to rebuild that and get back to where they should be, because it was only 12 months ago, Steve, they were lifting the title, and it's literally crumbled. It was an awful season last season. They played really, really poorly. Never had a chance of winning the league. I mean, they won the first 5 or 6 Premier League games, but scraped through. And imagine if that hadn't happened. It would have been a mid-table, bottom half finish. So it was really poor. Big job on his hands. Lots of money to spend, I think, but then he's got to gel them all together. It's a fascinating and interesting season for Liverpool.
It is. Theo, hypothetically, let me take you inside the Newcastle dressing room. You're a player there. You're so close to Eddie Howe. You see your manager go 18 days before the season starts on the back of Gordon and Trippier and Tonali and now Guimaraes. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling, where's this club ambition going right now? When you look at the stature of the club itself, the fans, those certain players that are so key into this Newcastle team actually performing well and trying to get back in the Champions League. It's going to be a tough season for them. I mean, the manager, I've got to say, looks great, though. I've got to admit, he does look great. So he would impress me in that sense, but I would have to probably be really well dressed coming in when I see him. But look, I think there's a really a good presence and aura about this new manager. And, as a young player, he likes to work with young players and get the best out of them. So I think the Newcastle fans will enjoy that side of it. However, for me, it's a big risk. It's a big risk. Eddie Howe, I loved Eddie Howe. He's great. For me, I've always felt like in time he'll be an England manager at some point in his career. And that would hurt a lot of players that would have had a lot of connections with him off the field as well. But because he really cares about his players, and even when he speaks to people around the club, he cares about the club. And I think that's going to be hard to earn that back, really, I suppose. It's going to be his biggest test, is trying to turn the fans to actually support him and support the way he plays in a modern kind of style of free-flowing football. But it's got to excite the fans. Otherwise, it's going to be a big job for them, isn't it, Dion? It's going to be tough for them.
And you
really
saw with that list of ins, they've changed their policy, haven't they? They've gone very young, very unproven in the Premier League.
Back in the coach to make those young players better, make them ready for the task at hand. The biggest challenge is the fans, because they're not patient fans, Newcastle fans. Arsenal have had to be patient for their success. We've seen Frank tonight. Commentary been patient with Frank, and you've got to be patient. You've got to let the manager find his way in and not get on his back too early, because this is not going to be an easy season for Newcastle. No way, shape or form.
What do you think for them?
at this present time, with the players that have gone out, I mean, Guimaraes and Tonali, two world-class midfielders that they were a heartbeat for Newcastle. That's gone. It's been ripped out. The experience of Trippier, gone. And I think it's got a mid-table finish for Newcastle. I think right now is a good finish.
And we must mention Sunday's game and beforehand. So much emotion will be in the air as respects are paid to Kevin Keegan, who was absolutely God at both clubs, who you play for club and for country, and we were all privileged enough to be in the company of him. I mean, the tributes from both, wouldn't you just know it, that the first game since his passing would be Newcastle against Liverpool? Yeah,
absolutely. Two of the teams that would have touched his heart. But I mean, he certainly touched the fans' heart of both clubs. A quite incredible player, two-time Ballon d'Or winner. I mean, won virtually everything in the game. And not only as a player, but then as a manager, absolutely fantastic. His appetite for life, his attitude, the way he was with people, he was one of, the nicest people that you would ever meet. Always had time for people, for fans. And I've got so many happy memories personally, but it will be a really emotional occasion because, he possibly gave Newcastle and Newcastle fans their best years. I know Eddie Howe, won a trophy and did incredibly well. But that ride when, he was going hammer and tongs with Fergie, when they would fly, all those great players, the Shearers, the Ferdinands, the Asprias, the Ginolas. I mean, there was some unbelievable players up there. And I think Newcastle fans will probably remember that era more fondly than any other.
Indeed.
With a smile there. Well, Liverpool have been in search of at least one winger all summer, with interest in PSG's Bradley Barcola, as well as that rejected bid for Minte. Andoni Iraola won't mention names, but says there will be additions before the window closes.
You know what I'm going to tell you, we cannot speak about players that are not ours, and in terms of, you are asking me what do we need, there are certain situations that for me are clear, that are especially now on the wing, because we don't have enough players like specific to play in those positions. And then after positions, I think we have to be open and open-minded in the market to see situations that honestly can improve our team. No, it's not about signing because we need a player here. No, it's about improving the squad. I wanted the first day, 13th of market is open and you start competition. We have to adapt as coaches to these situations. I hate these 2 weeks or these 10 days that we have because there is a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, those are thoughts of the new Liverpool head coach, Andoni Iraola. We can have a look, Warren, at the current squad at Liverpool. Should the fans be a little bit concerned with the depth of that squad?
I wouldn't be. I think when you look at the goalkeeper, I think that speaks for itself, not a problem there. Back four, I thought they brought good depth coming in with experience, although it's only on loan. Midfield area, and like you've touched on there, they're looking in wide areas. I think that's where they can improve to get service. It hates me to say it, but I think Isak will have a really good season. I think he's a player that had the injuries last season. He's a very, very good finisher. They need supply, and maybe that's where wide areas, particularly on this right-hand side, that they can get good deliveries. I think Wirtz will come good. Elliott, we know about him. So I'm not overly concerned. I know they're going on 4 fronts, but I think realistically they'll be looking at a domestic cup and obviously the Premier League as well. I think Champions League is too far away for them at the moment. But I think with Isak up there, well, like we said with Haaland, when you've got someone that can get you goals, and he's proved he can do that, then I think he will score goals, in particularly in this team that they have.
This is predominantly the squad that Arne Slot has left, Andoni Iraola, and clearly they play in very, very different ways. Do you think the makeup of this squad is conducive to the style of play that Andoni Iraola will want to bring at Anfield?
Yeah, I think he's simplified how they play. Where before we knew about maybe playing out from the back, getting the ball out from the back, being a bit more confident on the ball. They was a little bit vulnerable because they was trying to go forward and they got caught in 2 minds, I think, where they was trying to be expansive and play, and then they just got picked off. And once that, again, I go back to that word fear factor, when players don't feel against Liverpool, wanted to score goals, they was a bit vulnerable. But I think he's got enough experience about the league, knowing these players, and they know him of what he's done before. I think he'll simplify it. I don't think he'll over-embellish in midfield. I think he'll want to get it wide and he'll want to get into his striker. As I said, at the back, I think they'll be much better than there was, because at the beginning of the season, they was pushing their fullbacks on and leaving the two centre-halves isolated, and people were just going down the side time and time again. I don't think that'll happen this time. I think they have a good stability.
Well, one player missing in that midfield is Curtis Jones.
Yeah.
He's on the verge of joining Inter Milan. We understand he's out there having a medical. It's a homegrown player, someone who's been at the club since he was 9 years of age. And obviously it's an added emotion when the fans lose someone like that. Is that a concern for you, maybe the lack of players who have come through the ranks at Liverpool and the homegrown players there?
Yeah, I mean, this club has always had a great tradition with academy players coming through. Steven Gerrard, Jamie Carragher, obviously the players that are coming through. But is he going to play? How much playing time is he going to get when he's in that middle there? So that would have been in Curtis's mind, saying, look, I've got a taste of the England. Maybe I need to go to a European team and play well. Listen, he's gone to Inter Milan. He's not gone to a team that's struggling. They're a team that are building. They want success. I love the fact now that we're seeing a lot of British players go to Europe and do well. You look at Jude Bellingham, what he's been able to do. So for him to go out there, Curtis, I think it's a great move personally for him, and we'll see his development as a player.
Andoni Iraola in his first season will be contesting 4 competitions. What does success for Andoni Iraola and Liverpool look like next season?
A trophy. So whether that's the FA Cup or the Domestic League Cup, but also to have a competitive season in the Premier League, competing with the likes of Arsenal. I think Manchester United will be there. Are Chelsea going to be there? Are Manchester City going to be there? So I think he's got enough about him as a coach, with the squad of players he's got, with that fan base that they have behind him, to have a good season. Yes, it's going to be difficult, but I think he'll pick the games and maybe won't rotate so many players, what we've seen before. I think he'll go with what he likes and tries them and ride them from as long as they can, and then maybe give them a break here and there. But I think domestically, he'll want to do well first and foremost.
I mean, the Premier League and the Champions League is what the fans would want. Do you foresee them getting one of those, or maybe one of the
I can see them more challenging for the Premier League than I think the Champions League is not there yet. But it's, again, it all goes how, if Isak is scoring 25, 26 goals a season, that changes the whole dimension of that team. They're very much a team, and he as a coach are playing on the front foot, getting service in. So I think he could cause teams problems.
Great stuff, Warren. And Iraola's
strange. I said I was genuinely shocked, I think, when Eddie left. Like, I understand why he left, but what he's done for Newcastle as a city and a club, I don't think it'll be tough to beat that. But obviously now we've got the change, we've got new younger players coming in now, the new manager, there's a lot of new stuff about, so yeah, it felt like a new club when I came in, so it's exciting. Obviously now it's a sort of period of change. We've got younger players who are coming in who maybe English isn't their first language, or they've never played Premier League before, and it's up to us as senior players to help them with that. When you like sit back and look at the people who've been captain for Newcastle and like local lads who've been captain for Newcastle, it's yeah, I'm very, very proud for me, like my family, and sort of understand the responsibility of it. And yeah, it just feels like I'm sort of like ticking things off at Newcastle that I haven't had the chance to do, and I'm just keep getting that opportunity. So yeah, hopefully it'll be a good season.
Warren, he's saying all the right things, but there's no disguising it. There's been so much overhaul during the summer, not least Matthias Gisela coming in to replace Eddie Howe. He's got no Premier League experience. The opening 2 games are at home to Liverpool and then away to Tottenham Hotspur. If they're not careful, things could go wrong, and pretty quickly at Newcastle, couldn't they?
Or they could go right. I like everything I hear from him. He's 38 years of age. Yes, he hasn't been in the Premier League, but we speak about all the new era of coaches that are in Premier League. Everybody knows what the Premier League is. They watch it. It's a global brand. People are watching the games. He's very similar in Eddie's style of play as well. He wants to play on the front foot. He wants to be aggressive. Okay, I know he hasn't managed in the top 5 leagues, but wherever he's done, he's won. He's won trophies. He's been consistent. I think the fans are going to love him. He's a very animated coach, where Eddie was quite reserved. And we must say, and I must say, Eddie did a magnificent job at that football club. Champions League, you know, twice. Big shoes to come in, won that trophy that hadn't been done for 70 years. But everything I hear about this fella, everything I see about him, I like about him. He wants the club to go forward. We've got exciting young players. Ross Wilson has brought in some players, the sporting director of the club. ideally, you don't want to lose them players. But when Gordon wants to leave and the money you're getting for someone going to Barcelona, Tonali, we stuck by him when he had the problems. He wants to leave. We got outstanding money for him. Bruno leaving as well. That was a real tough one for the fans because he was your captain and kissing your badge. But he's 29, and if he wants to go out there. We need now in the next probably week, 10 days, to bring in 1 or 2 more experienced players in the Premier League. But I'm optimistic. I think he's got a chance of being successful. And I think what I would do if I was in that change room is prove a lot of people wrong and say we're going to have a good season. But the fans can play a big part in this as well, supporting the team.
You seem very, very optimistic about their chances this season because there have been whispers, and we should say it pretty quietly, the potential relegation, or maybe looking over the shoulder, like you said, maybe Fulham are going to. Are you convinced that that's not going to be the case for Newcastle?
Yeah, I am convinced. I do. Again, a lot of the things from the coaches, and people like Dan Burns, who knows the responsibility of being the captain, knows the responsibility of doing that. They've got some young, exciting players, maybe don't know the league, but I remember a wise man saying once about Manchester United, you can't win anything with kids. And they went on and dominated for a decade. So I'm not saying these players are at that level, but the young kid from Ajax, Sean, is a good player. Torre, coming from Offenheim, he's a good player. Midfield players looking good. We just need to add a little bit more experience. And as I said, the fans will play a big part in this and helping the team hit the ground running. The first thing he should do, actually, the coach, is go and have a coffee with Alan Shearer to talk about Newcastle, what it means to coach Newcastle, because you understand it, you see the Premier League, you watch all the games, but you have to live in that city to understand what it means to the fans and embrace that and enjoy that.
Isak went last summer. You touched on the players that have left this time. Bruno, Sandro Tonali, Anthony Gordon, and the experience that Kieran Trippier brought to Newcastle United as well. With all of that in mind, and the players that they've brought in, and the ones that you hope that they can bring in the next 7 days to 10 days, what would represent a realistically successful season for this club?
Realistically, I would hope they would be in the top 8, 9, 10th in the league if they could do that. Have a good cup competition. I know we're going to go through to predictions as well later on. I am optimistic. It's a clean slate. Eddie was magnificent for the club. Didn't finish the season well. There's a few grumblings. If you don't do well, like you said, against Liverpool and then Tottenham, there's a few boos. They start chanting for his name. And Eddie didn't deserve that. Eddie done a great job. He's left on his terms. Will always be welcome back at that football club. Now we've got a fresh start, fresh beginning. Go on forward, play without fear, and make St James's Park the fortress it used to be when we was part of the entertainers. And that can be done with hard work, commitment and effort. Because if you give that to that lot up there in Newcastle, they'll love you for that.